Well, hello, everybody. Welcome from wherever you are. Looks like I get my hair to calm down there. There we go. So, what little hair I have, I got to keep it calm, Otherwise, I'll look like Doc Brown from Back to the Future. All right, guys. Hey, welcome here. Hopefully, you're here because you want to learn about passive income, which is exactly the very thing we're talking about today. For those of you, because it does take me a little time to see, go ahead and say hello. Tell us where you're from. Leah, I can see you're on. So, hello as well. I know we got people on YouTube, we got Facebook, and of course, anything online, however you're seeing it. But definitely good to see you guys coming in and rolling in right now as we speak. So, Mark, aloha. We know where you're from, don't we, Mark? So definitely good to see you here from Hawaii. It's got to be a little bit early for you now. All right. Cool. We got others rolling in as well. So great. Okay, so I know there's gonna be a lot of you guys saying hi, telling us where you're from and all that jazz. But definitely, if you're here and you want to learn about passive income, because I gotta say, I love it. I love passive income, as my shirt so states. So let's just really get into it. I'm gonna go ahead and bring up my screen here so we can just jump right in. James, welcome from Charlotte, North Carolina. Glad to see you from sea to shining sea. I know it's not my usual setup, as you guys are seeing back here. I'm in Florida right now. We just had our team retreat there. And then we also got a conference that I'm at right now learning about the very thing we're talking about today. So excited to share that with you guys too. And yes, Mark, I did miss you at the Honolulu Marathon as well. Darn it. I was having too much fun in Florida. So Bob, hello from Phoenix. Ben, hello in Wisconsin. All right. Let me, okay. For some reason, here we go. This is why you don't have Chris Miles multitask right here. All right. Okay, so here we go. We got the passive income playbook for 2024. I won't be able to see your comments or questions, but feel free along the way. If you've got questions, definitely ask them. I will come back and try to answer these as well as we're going along here. But definitely this I'm excited for this, because if you're looking forward to 2024, you're wondering what to do. Maybe you're kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired a little bit. Maybe you're hoping for, things to ease up, and if you can't make the outside world easy up, is there a way that you can get your money working harder for you so you don't have to work so hard for it, right? That's really what we're talking about today. And so this is the big thing, is if I can show you how to create another $1,000 a month or more of passive income without, one, taking a lot of your time into your life, as I was talking with somebody just really over the weekend, he just emailed me back. Two, not having to start a new business that claims passive income, but it's really just a part-time job, which ticks me off. And then three, it doesn't require a lot of financial training. So you don't have to go deep into the weeds and study for hours and hours just to learn how to do this. If you want to learn how to do that, just like hundreds of our clients and I have already done over the last decade, well, if you want to see how that's done, stay in this. If you're not here for that, well, then go ahead and jump off, because you probably realize that you were looking for some energy healing, and this was not it. So definitely excited to have you guys be able to talk about this, because there are ways to create passive income easier than you might not realize. Many times we have people, and I know I was a financial advisor at one point, which is why I'm now the anti-financial advisor. But these are things that I'm telling you, financial advisors don't want you to know. And so we're going to talk about how to find money to invest. One, two, what are my favorite investments that your financial advisor doesn't know about? In fact, kind of as a bonus, I'm going to add here even my favorite investments going into 2024. Again, not to be construed as actual investment advice. I'm not an investment advisor, but I will share with you what I've been doing in my own life, as well as many of our clients have been doing too. And then, of course, the third thing is what it takes to really become financially independent in the next 7 to 10 years. Some of you could do it sooner. Some of you might take a few years later, but I'm here to tell you it does not require you to go 30 or 40 years of slaving away only to find out it doesn't work, okay? Just so you know, there's going to be a bonus ahead. We'll put in a link so you can actually download what we refer to as our Cashflow Optimizer. It's a spreadsheet you can use to fill in your numbers, kind of help get things more organized, because I know for many of you, that's essential. It doesn't matter where you are in your financial life. You probably need a little bit more organization, don't you? You definitely need to know where your money is, especially as we talk about how to find that money, find those resources, and then use it to invest for you. My inspiration for today is actually my dad. If those of you that already know me, you may have heard me reference it before, but my dad was the penny pinching saver, right? The guy that saved every dime he could. He taught me to save like crazy, which is probably what contributed to me becoming a financial advisor down the road after I went to college. And as I was a financial advisor, eventually my dad said, well, when are you going to financially advise me? So I remember sitting down with him at his table, went back there to Oregon to visit him. And as I was sitting there, he started opening up his finances for the first time in my life. And as I see his finances, I see that he paid off all of his debt, including his house, in 18 years. And then on top of that, he's been stuffing money away into his 401k like every good girl and good boy should be doing, right? And as he gets to it, he says, Chris, what do you think? Like, can I retire now? Because I'm sick and tired of this. Like, he'd already had major health issues by that point, strokes and heart attacks. He was done. He was ready to be done. He was sick and tired of being sick and tired, literally. And I looked at his numbers. I said, Dad, here's the deal. If you want to retire today at 61 years old, you better hope you die in 5 years, because that's when you're going to run out of money. Well, Chris, that's not what I want to hear. What's the answer? And I said, I don't know. You did everything right, according to what I teach as a financial advisor. And that bugged me for a few weeks. It really bothered me. I'm like, how do I get my dad to retire? Because in some ways, he was the inspiration for me to become a financial advisor, because I thought, worst case, I can help give him some of his life back, because he talked about how he'd always work until he died, how money doesn't grow on trees. He always lived a life of this money was a scarce thing. I wanted to change that for him. But then I'm like the very inspiration for me to become a financial advisor, and now my faith is being shaken. Of course, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. I find out my friend, he went to go do real estate investing. I trained him to be a financial advisor on my team. He left. He said, I'm going to do this real estate investing thing, which I said, good luck. And when you're broke, come back. Okay, I didn't say it like that. I wasn't that mean. But pretty much that's what I was thinking, right? Well, I called him up, and I just kind of wondered how he was doing. And I expected to hear that maybe he was broke and maybe he was going to come back. And it was the exact opposite. He says, Chris, my dad and I have partnered on these deals. So his dad and him went on it. And we've now doubled my dad's income as a professor at the local university. Complete opposite direction of what I had with my dad's experience, which was, hey, Dad, you better hope you don't outlive your money, versus, holy cow, we just got, in a matter of months, got him to double his income. And that shocked me. And it got me to really start to go down this rabbit hole of what's really behind this about passive income versus just accumulating your money, storing it, saving up, sacrificing and slaving away, hoping that someday something might work out for you if the stock market doesn't tank on you in the meantime, however many times it is while you're trying to get to retirement, right? It's like a bipolar ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend, right? It just keeps going up and down. And so I wanted to do something different. And as I started to do that for myself, guess what? I myself was able to get out of the rat race, right? I was actually able to retire when I was 28 years old, quit being a financial advisor. I said, I'll never do that again. And I'm here to tell you, it's not just because I was a financial advisor. It wasn't like I had any special training. In fact, the truth is I had to undo training. I had to unlearn things so that I could do it right. It's not about working harder. It's not about working smarter. It's about doing it right. And I'm here to tell you that no matter where you are, and trust me, I've even been in a situation where I've been over $1 million in debt, and actually, during the last recession, had to dig out of that hole again to then become financially free the second time in 2016. So if I can dig out of $1 million debt hole, I can guarantee almost any one of you here can do the same. And I don't mean dig out of a debt hole. I mean, be able to get to the point where you're financially independent, where your bills are paid for, you work because you want to, not because you have to. And here's the key thing you got to understand is that cash flow is what creates freedom. It's not about how much money you accumulate. Remember, everybody in the financial advising world tells you got to save up this large nest egg, this big, fat golden goose. And then that golden goose is going to lay those golden eggs for you in retirement, and you're going to live out your golden years. There's a lot of gold, apparently, with financial advisors. Unfortunately, you don't really make much in gold because the truth is that, well, not many people actually retire. And so this is really for those of you, one, if you're not the person that believes financial advisors, if you think that somehow you're going to become financially free, listen to financial advisors, then you probably should even listen to this. This is for those people that are actually more open. You want other solutions because maybe deep down, it just something didn't feel right about the things you've been learning. Maybe it didn't feel right hearing that I'm supposed to save and slave away, and hopefully someday I've got something in my pocket, right? But maybe you're thinking, maybe there's a better way to do it. Maybe there's a way I can actually even get myself to create money now rather than later. That's who this is really for. It's for those of you that really, truly want to create freedom in your life. So if you want freedom, you're willing to question the status quo, because let's be honest, when you follow mainstream, you pretty much probably guess wrong in many cases, right? Mainstream would say that you're going to be healthy, eating lots of bread every single day. And then all of a sudden we got this fat, overweight generation of Americans because of it, right? That's what mainstream does to you. Don't become mainstream in this sense either, because if mainstream means that Fidelity, for example, reports that only 1.5%, 750,000 out of their 45 million clients, only 750,000, 1.5% have $1 million or more. And of that, those that have $1 million or more, 35% think it'll take a miracle, quote unquote, to be able to retire. That means you got a less than a 1% chance of success. That's why even when I taught as a financial advisor, you have a 1% chance of success, like to be financially independent. That's correct. Unfortunately, it's not those that save in these mutual funds. It's actually those that do something different. So if you're willing to question the status quo, do something different. Willing to be a little bit of a heretic in your life, to do what tens of millions of us have already done to create wealth and got much better odds of success than doing this mainstream status quo 401k, then this is for you. Now, if you want to make an extra $1,000 a month, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. If you're just trying to do it with passive investments, you better have at least $100,000, because $100,000 making 10% is about $10,000 a year. So if you don't have $100,000, sorry, you're not going to make $1,000 a month. But here's the thing. If you've got no cash, or you're trying to at least get to the point you have cash, you should check out our Cashflow secrets. And we'll go ahead and put a link in it in our comment thread here so you can see that. Cashflow secrets, we actually offered it last month. Now we got it back to the normal price, just $97. This is something I taught before that really, if you want to truly build a fine and free up cash, this is what actually helped me dig out of that $1 million debt hole so that I did have money to invest to then go do that kind of stuff. Then you should definitely check that out. All right. So, but again, like I said, there's still hope, even if you're starting out from scratch, because if I was mega $1 million, you can do it too. Now, I'm telling you, guys like Dave Ramsey of the world, they just don't get it, right? The financial advisors, they don't get this. And that's why I say, like, we're teaching stuff that financial advisors don't want you to know. But let's be honest, most of them don't even know this exists. The problem is this, is that you're trying to save your money in the stock market, and it goes up or down, right? You don't know what's going to happen. And you got guys like Dave Ramsey telling you, if you can invest $100 a month for the next 40 years, you'll have 1.176 million. You do not have to retire broke, is what he said on Instagram, right? Says this all the time. But here's the problem, guys. Even though 130,000 people like that freaking post, here's the problem. I just did the math. It wasn't 1.176 million. He was $200,000 off. You didn't even make it to $1 million, making his 12% return in the market. Well, that's the other problem. The market doesn't actually return 12%. It returns a lot less. So then you get people like this, like Michelle here, Michelle 1A, that says, Dave, I followed you since I was 18 years old. I'm 50. I've lost my entire retirement in the stock market. I've done what you said, but I've lost almost all of it. Here's the kicker. She asks, is there anything else you recommend? Okay, she just said following his advice made her go broke, and she's asking for more advice. And other people are saying the same thing too. It's like, well, what are we invested into? No one teaches these things. Well, guess what? We do. And we're going to talk about that right now. So here's the problem, guys, that people listen to him and it just doesn't work. You got inflation that's also going awesome, right? You get this nice little raise, and then inflation goes and kicks your butt. So you actually get a pay cut without getting a pay cut, right? You also got the issue of 401ks and IRAs that even though that's where you're told to put all your money, you got the government with all this $33 trillion of debt saying, where are we going to get the money? I know. Let's go for the place where we can change the rules and make the tax code whatever we want. So even though you've been putting your money away, hoping that you won't have to pay taxes down the road, the truth is you're going to pay taxes down the road, and it might be worse than today. So you can't trust that. And even worse, this doesn't affect just you and your life. It creates stress in your life. It creates stress for your family. It creates a really just a ripple effect, right? It really does, a negative ripple effect, as opposed to the positive one I always talk about. It creates a legacy of scarcity. Just like I was raised in, that got passed on to me from my father, it's creating a new legacy. This has to stop, and the best way to stop it is with you right now. So cash flow is what creates freedom. Having more money coming in every month than what's going out, that's what's key. And you don't have to live cheap. You don't have to live on rice and beans. It's about how do you actually, one, be a wise steward of your money, and then two, how do you get your money to work harder for you? So you have to keep working so freaking hard for that. So I love what Warren Buffett says. He says, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. Now, I don't mean if you want to make money when you sleep, you go on YouTube and do it like this guy did and have people make loud noises to wake him up just so he can make some money. You don't have to lose sleep over this, literally, right? You don't have to make money while you sleep by having people, disrupt your sleeping. You can actually do it much better, but it requires you to do what I did, which was taking that matrix red pill, doing something different, right? So let's talk about the stock market versus real estate, because a lot of things we talk about is real estate. Not all of it is, but most of it is usually real estate backed. But everyone has been telling you that the stock market is the place to be. Whenever I thought of investing, even as a financial advisor, I thought of the stock market. And when people said real estate, it's like, oh, you don't make really that much money in real estate. It's not worth it. Stocks are better. You make lots of money there. Let's talk about that. Let's give real examples, right? So they show you the stock market chart. They say, hey, look at this. You put in $1 in the stock market in 1928. And then by the time it's 2023 or so, you got like $56,000. Yeah, you put in a house, you might make $20. That's the kind of thing they teach. And they'll even show you like different charts. Say, look, stocks beat real estate. Yay! But let's look at the reality. So let's compare May of 2018 till today. I went and averaged out the market. The S&P 500, which does better than most mutual funds, especially if you have a 401k, it kicks the crap out of those. Did just over 10% average in the last 5.5 years. About 5.5 years. Well, here's my house on the right. This is one of the first rental properties I bought after I recovered financially and started to help myself get out of the rat race. This is one I bought in 2018 in Tennessee. Well, if you compare it, $32,000 down payment is what I paid. Well, what if I put that $32,000 instead of in a real estate, put in the stock market? If I put in the S&P 500 and there were no fees, which we know there are, I would have $55,000. I would have made a 73% return, which is pretty darn good for 5.5 years in the stock market. In fact, it's better than average. But if that same $32,000, guess what? Has made me $156,000 in my real estate property in Tennessee. I made almost a 400% rate of return in those same 5.5 years versus the 73%, and it's backed by a real property. Hey, if the stock market goes down even just a little bit, I did these numbers as of this morning. If the stock market even goes down 5%, well, guess what? You've just lost a little bit more, a couple grand of this money here, and the ROI goes down, doesn't it? So you got to be careful. So again, now what does that relate to in real life? That means if I were to try to put my money in the market, that 32,000 became 55. I can live on $1,600 a year, not a month, not even a week, a year. But that same property, which by the way has a ton of equity in it too, that I could sell off and get more cash out. Guess what? That's actually making me $7,300 a year. So I'm making, guys, I'm seriously making almost 5 times more than what I would have done in the stock market in just the last 5 years. That is what I mean by getting your money working harder for you. That's just with $32,000, guys. $32,000 that now has jumped up to $7,350 a year. Now, the return on the stock market has actually been closer to 8%, not 12 like people try to claim. And that's a big difference. And I won't put a lot of emphasis on that. Just know that the stock market doesn't return as much. And what it means is that in that same Dave Ramsey example, instead of having $1 million, almost 1.2 million like he claimed, you actually have closer to $300,000. That makes a big difference in your lifestyle, going from 1.2 million to 300,000, doesn't it? So here's my advice to you is get lean, get liquid, and get out. Get lean means, of course, be a wise steward of your money. Start tracking your money, if not at least every week, if not definitely at least monthly, but at least every week or every other week. Start watching how much money's coming in, how much is going out, and really start to really analyze and say, all right, what's effective here? What's really worth me spending money on and what's not? And it's not like there's a right or wrong answer. It just depends on what you feel is productive in your life versus destructive. And sometimes things are consumptive. They're not needed. They're not a necessity. They're a want, but they help enrich your life. And those things are okay within reason too, right? But I don't need you to live on rice and beans and be so cheap in your life that you live a life of scarcity. You make everybody else, pay for your meal or whatever it might be, because, you don't want to do that. It's really about just being wise by watching your money. I actually had, by the way, I've had clients that started tracking their money, save everywhere from $500 a month to even $1,800 a month. Even one person saved them literally over 70 grand a year just because they started tracking their money. It's insane. Now get liquid. What do I mean by that? Get liquid means you got to have money available in cash and savings that you can use. Isn't it interesting that every single financial advisor or expert in the media, right? They always tell you to not be liquid. They tell you to put your money and pay off your house, put it into that house. But if you paid an extra $1,000 on your mortgage payment, can you go back to the bank and say, hey, I need that $1,000 back? No, you can't, right? They won't let you get it. So you can't do that. And at the same time, they tell you to throw money in those retirement plans. Well, when you want that money, can you get it out? No. We got several clients right now that went and they max funded their 401ks, $20,000 a year. And now all of a sudden they're saying, well, now I want money to invest. This is the time to do it, which I agree. But guess what? They can't. Why? Because they locked it up with their current employer. So they can't even get that money out. So get liquid means getting your money in your hands, in your control. So then you can then get it out. You can then get it to invest. Now I'll go back to liquid. Guys like Warren Buffett, heralded as one of the greatest investors of all time. His partner, Charlie Munger, just passed away a couple weeks ago. He actually bumped it up. Although the article I show here says 120 billion, right, that they have, or sorry, 125 billion that they have in liquid reserves. Well, guess what? Just months later, they bumped up to 155 billion. Even Warren Buffett is building up cash. He's not investing all of it. He's definitely not. By the way, he doesn't invest in the stock market. He buys businesses. He's still building up more cash. He's trying to get liquid. And here's places that you can get liquid. Here's ways you can get money out, right? Bank savings. If you have a bank savings account, that's a place that can be liquid. If you have life insurance cash value, if you have like a universal life policy, whole life policies, whatever it might be, things that have actual those tax-free savings accounts inside of them, that's liquid. Mutual funds. If you got money in mutual funds, that's money we could be using to actually generate passive income. Old 401ks or IRAs. Now, if it's a current company 401k that's not liquid, you can't get it out, not worth borrowing from either. But if you have an old 401k from a previous employer, maybe you just changed jobs or maybe you got laid off, heaven forbid. But what if that happened? That can be one of your best opportunities to be able to get that cash out now so you can then use it to make some actual real passive income. That's something that makes a difference in your life, paycheck to paycheck. Instead of always paying for it, you can actually get paid, right? Rental properties. I'll talk about this with one of our clients, but a lot of you have equity in your rental properties that maybe you could be making a lot more in income than what you're making right now. So you might think, well, Chris, I'm in real estate. I'm already doing a good job. Maybe not so much. A home equity. If you got extra home equity, although it's not the best thing with the higher interest rates, thing is interest rates are starting to come back down a little bit. It could be a good time to tap into your home equity to use that to invest to make more money. Gold, silver. I talked to somebody who had a bunch of crypto. He's like, I got $100,000 in crypto. I said, well, crypto is going sky high today. Maybe you want to pull some money out. You know, again, it can't be an investment advisor, but if you want to have more money to invest and you just made like 25% in the last month, you might want to maybe consider taking some of that money out so that you can use it to invest. So those kind of things that don't usually generate any real income for you can be used to get it out. And what do you get it out into? Here are those passive investments. You have things like turnkey rentals. Turnkey rentals, I mean, a lot of times people think of rentals, they think, oh, what a pain. I got to go and find some property to buy. And then from there, I got to go find a renter. And then I got to deal with all the tenants, the toilets, and the trash. And really, when people try to go buy their own rental properties, it's a pain in the butt. And really, it's like getting another part-time job, isn't it? Well, turnkey rentals, it's not the case. Turnkey rentals, there's companies that actually find the properties for you. You even know how much you're going to make on the property before you buy it. And then from there, they also get the renters in for you, and then they manage the rental for you. So you literally just buy the rental and then collect the check. That's how it works. Yeah, they get paid their property management fees, but you still get paid too. And you can actually know how profitable you're going to be right from the get-go. Now, lately, they haven't been as profitable, but still, there's decent ones that pay at least 5-6% a year, 7% a year. There's even one of our turnkey rental companies that we work with, that we connect our VIP clients to. They're actually doing about 10% a year right now. And you don't even have to get a mortgage on it. So it's pretty awesome returns, even better than what a lot of people have been getting in the stock market for the last few years. You could also, you ever wondered that you said, man, the bank, they make so much money off of me in interest. What if you could become the bank? What if you could start charging people interest? Well, that's what you can do with lending or with notes. Notes really are just the paper. Like when you get a mortgage, it's a note, right? That paper says, here's the contract we have that we got to pay you X percent. Well, you can lend your money to other investors. So then again, you can be hands off. You don't have to be the one involved in actually doing all the investing. You could actually lend your money to people like real estate investors where they pay you a contractual return of 8, 10, sometimes 12+% a year. So I'll tell you, like that's been one that I mentioned that as a bonus, I'll talk about some of my favorites. This has been some of my favorites for this last year because as interest rates have gone sky high, guess what? investors are willing to pay more interest. And so you can actually make some decent cash. Like that one I mentioned, that guy looking at a 1% fund, right? That 1% a month fund is actually lending money to the business for them to go and invest and build their properties and then rent them out. And so that's where they're making all their money. So they're making way more than that 1% a month on their properties. So that's why they'll borrow from you and pay you 1% a month. So for every $100,000 you give them, you make $1,000 a month, right? That's huge. Funds. Now, I don't mean mutual funds when I say funds. Funds are kind of similar to like what I just described there. Instead of lending to like one property, you might lend to them that might go into multiple properties, right? It might go into multiple projects. So you're a little bit more diversified. You're a little bit safer. Again, some of them will pay you 10 to 12%. It's very typical in our network of people that we've vetted over the many years that we've been doing this. Apartments. You can invest in apartment buildings. But here's the good news. You don't have to have millions and millions of dollars to be able to take down that apartment, right? You can pool your money with other investors. That's called a syndication. Pool your money with other investors where you get a percentage ownership in it, just like a business. So if it's $10 million that you need to get, you give them $100,000, you own 1% of that business, of that investment. So when you get paid, they split it out among all the people, and then you get those returns as well. Apartments have been a little bit tougher. So I would recommend against apartments lately, but I think in 2024, you might see those come back. Self-storage, very similar story to apartments. Pull your money with other investors and go buy into self-storage, which, by the way, when people fall on harder times, when, say inflation starts happening and things like that, and people need to downsize where they live, although that's not happened as much lately, but if people start to downsize, they usually put their junk into storage. Well, what if you get paid off that? What if you can take advantage of that, especially when most recessions, self-storage actually booms? Oil or mineral rights. One of the companies that our clients will use, they actually not only get paid for rent on the land from the oil companies, but they also get paid royalties on everything they pull out of the ground, whether it's oil, natural gas, whatever it is, they get paid on that. So they actually are able to kind of double dip in a sense. So there's things like that where it's kind of real estate backed, but now it's a little bit different than just buying rentals, for example, right? And then you can do partnerships, where you can partner with investors on different deals. And that's different than just lending them money. Like, for example, we have a syndication of sorts that deals with car wash businesses. So businesses that have a car wash, you actually get paid the profits off that business. There's a partnership I'm in right now where we're buying and selling raw land that, although we've invested $350,000 over the last couple of years, it's now paying me over $8,300 a month on that. So I'm making over $100,000 a year from that $350,000 invested. I mean, for that alone, some people are just wanting to get $100,000 a year passive income. I was able to do that with just a matter of a few $100,000. Understand that same $350,000, if I put that in the stock market even a couple of years ago, well, one, actually it'd probably be down because the stock market was higher a couple of years ago than it is today. So that probably wouldn't have $350,000. But even if I did $350,000 and I only pull off 3% that financial advisors would recommend, well, guess what? I'm only living on $10,000 a year. But instead, I'm making 10 times the amount of cash flow than that. So those are just a few examples of some of the things that we offer for our clients, especially when they work with us. Just so you know, by the way, the clients that work best with us, if you have at least $150,000 in cash that's liquid, from those sources we talked about, we should definitely be talking. So let me give you examples of some of our clients and what they've been doing. So you can kind of give an example, because many of these strategies are even strategies we're having people even do into 2024. This guy in particular, this guy is awesome because he was like the ultimate saver, right? This guy, he would save money, but he was trying to pay off all of his debt. He had a rental property and he had his own house. Those are the two real estate properties he had. He was aggressively paying them down. He said, Chris, if I keep going at this rate, in 6 years, I'll be debt free. I said, that's awesome. So what would that do for you? He said, oh, it'd be great because, I'll be able to free up like $4,200 a month. I said, well, that's cool. And I said, well, I noticed with your rental property, you're only making $200 a month right now. He's like, yeah, well, that's why I'm trying to pay it off really fast because I'm only making $200 a month. But if I pay it off, I'll be making $2,400 a month. I said, okay, well, that's cool. But guess what? This property has $700,000 of equity in it. $700,000. If you were to sell off this property and take that $700,000 and then put it somewhere where you only got paid 10%, right? 10% is kind of on the lower end of the scale for what many of our clients get. You get 10% on that 700,000. That's 70,000 a year versus your 2,400 a year you're making right now. And hopefully in 6 years, you'll be making almost 30,000 a year. I said, if you actually kept reinvesting that 70,000, you would be in 6 years over 100,000 a year. Well, he wasn't having it. He's like, nah, I can't do that. No, we love this. This is our first property. Well, a couple of years later, he finally did it. He sold off that property, got the equity out, started buying properties more like the Southeast of the Southeast US. Well, guess what? He just sent me an email a few months ago, said, hey, Chris, now after just a few years getting that money out, I've just hit $100,000 a year with my rentals. He's like, this is so cool. I get what you were saying back then. He fought me, but by the time he was actually, like I said, if you're willing to be open, truth is he could have been probably closer to 120,000 a year right now instead of 100,000 a year. But you know, it is what it is, right? He had to take a couple years to warm up to the idea. I'm telling you, speed is everything. The willingness to not just learn, but then take action. That's where our clients get the best results. Here's a woman that she had about 650,000 when we found out all the assets we could use. Some went to oil, some went to debt funds, some real estate funds. All in all, she actually just announced earlier this year that she is officially out of the rat race. She's able to pay for her bills each and every month. So 76,000 a year on that one. This couple right here was an interesting couple. They came to us. They said, we got $5 million in the stock market. We're thinking about maybe getting some of it out and making some money in real estate. Well, the first thing we noticed, like, as she started meeting with her coach, and then I looked at it too. I said, holy cow, you don't even have to invest yet. If we actually do a cash out refinance of your property, you know, cash out the money, the equity from your home, use that to pay off some of these other loans, you'll free up $3,800 a month. Guys, understand that's over $45,000 a year that they freed up without spending a dime. That was just using the equity from their home. That's net, by the way. And then on top of that, we found out with their businesses, they were actually overpaying on taxes. When they met with our accountant, because we also refer people not just for passive income, we also refer them to accountants and attorneys. We got insurance specialists. We've got, you know, other people that help with almost any aspect of money. And so they went out and talked to the CPA, found out they're freeing up over $30,000 a year in tax savings. So even before they started investing, they had already improved their cash flow by $75,000 a year. I mean, how many of you guys would love to have that, right? I mean, that would be awesome. We also got them to sell one of their rentals that was just doing jack squat, kind of like that other guy's rental. So just by selling the rental and reinvesting it, made another $2,000 a month there. And if they actually moved all their money out of the stocks, and now we finally got to the stocks that we're talking about, right? If they actually did all $5 million, they could easily create at least $500,000 a year at 10%. They have not sold off all their stocks. They're keeping some of it already, but they have sold some. But they're already about a couple $100,000 a year of passive income at this point. They could be more, but you know, that's where they're at so far. Had another guy here where a rancher got him to free up a bunch of cash, got money out of some of his property, got his cash flow up over $200,000 a year, and his goal was only $120,000 a year. He wanted $10,000 a month. This guy right here, he's been on our podcast, Dan. You know, he's a colonel in the military. He actually had $1 million that he was able to take from his retirement account, because you can actually move your money out of your company or your work 401k. He retires. He was able to pull that money out, move into what's called a self-directed IRA. So that just means you just move your money to a place where you can invest in other places besides the stock market. Moved it over, and guess what happened? He's now taken it from, instead of $30,000 a year, he's going to live on a financial plan, traditional financial plan. It now went to $130,000 a year. And then that can vary too, depending on some of it was in oil investments he did and whatnot, and apartment buildings. So, I mean, he even dipped below $100,000 a year, but still way more than the $30,000 a year he's promised. Louis here, he was on my podcast recently as well. He talked about how he's literally just a few $100 a month away from being financially independent. And then even more so, if you want to be financially free, he's like, I want even more than that. He's like, he's more than halfway to that goal. What's interesting though, is that he's had 2 hiccups in the last 3 years, because he works on Hollywood as a set dresser. So he had 2020 lockdowns, right, which stopped television at that point. So he wasn't getting paid then. And now they got the writer's strike going on, right, and the actor's strike and everything. So he's been out of work on and off the last 3 years. The main thing that's been getting him through, besides letting him have a little bit of cash on the side, is that his passive income is covering everything but just a few $100 a month. He only has to barely dip into savings during this period of time, while his other coworkers are desperate. Now, A lot of times we get people that'll say, hey, I want 10,000 a month or 100,000 a year. That's my cash flow goal, right? And people will ask, well, how do I do that in 10 years? Well, it depends on what you're doing with it. If you get a mutual fund and say you make 7% after all the fees, which would be pretty dang good if you actually got that much, even since the average is less than 8%, you would have to start saving right now. If you're starting from zero, you got to save about almost $20,000 a month for the next 10 years. And then you can live on 100,000 a year in cash flow after inflation. Now, if you get into investment that's at 10%, even better. If you do that, now you got to save about 5,000 a month. If you get even just a couple percent higher than that, $3,700 a month, more doable. Now, it's not easy. That's why I said it's not always easy, but it's definitely doable. And like I said, I mean, obviously you see some of my properties did more than even 12% a year. And it just depends. Again, there's no guarantees. And I'm not saying that people should expect to make huge returns like I made in those 5 years. But even then, making 10 or 12% a year, you can get to 100,000 of cash flow in 10 years. Just so you know, if you want to have 100,000 a year of passive income coming from mutual funds, you got to save that $3.3 million right now. You got to have 3.3 million. That's why you got to save 20,000 bucks a month, or about $250,000 a year to do that over the next 10 years. So you can finally get to over 3 million and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's virtually impossible, guys. It really is. If you want a fighting chance to be able to do it sooner, this is it. This is what we're teaching you is the way. Now, here's the big picture, right? Is that when you start to learn these principles, you start to get lean, you start to get liquid, and then you get that money out. And we even teach things like infinite banking and things like that you can use to make your money pay you in two places at the same time to kind of boost up the cash flow a little bit more. And then you start doing passive investing as well. On top of that, you just keep recycling that money. You get it to build and build. And you create this income snowball. Because just like what happened with my client Henry there, right? You know, he started getting his money out. He got that 700,000 out to invest, 70,000 a year or more. They started making that first year, but then he reinvests that 70,000 the next year, and that adds like another 7,000. So now he's like at 77,000 the next year. You reinvest it again, then he's about 85,000 the next year. You reinvest again, and that's how it goes, guys. It just builds and builds and builds. That is the key. That is the real way to freedom. And here's the cool thing. If anything happens, any hiccups happen in life, just like what happened with Louis, you've got cash to help you. You don't get that benefit when you're just stashing your money away in a retirement account, do you? Because in those retirement accounts, it just doesn't work. You've got to lock them away. And if there's a problem that happens in your life, you got to ask for permission to get to that money. And they may not even give it to you. It's just locked away from you. What good does that do for now? And by the way, do you even know if you're going to be alive in 30 or 40 years? None of us do. I hope I'm alive even tomorrow, right? All we have is today. Why are you deferring for 30 or 40 years, hoping something that might work, which is statistically shown not to work? Why would you keep doing that if it's only be worse for you? So here's what your next step is, guys. Go to moneyripples.com. Go click on the Try Our Passive Income Calculator now. Click on that little button there. Take the calculator. One of two things is going to happen. You can either get a positive number, you might get a 0, you might even get a negative number. If you get a negative number, that's not a negative thing. All that means is your first step is to build up your savings. And that's why that Cash Flow Secrets course could be great for you. Now, even if it's a little bit positive, but maybe it's less than 15,000, you may not be ready to start doing these investments quite yet. But that's where the infinite banking, you should definitely check that out on our site. You can see right up there. It's right there at the top. We got all kinds of information on that. Check that out. By the way, if you do an infinite banking policy with us, that tax-free supercharged savings account that you use with life insurance, we also give you our Wealth Accelerator Academy for free as part of that too. So if you're at the point where maybe you are able to save at least 5,000 a year, that could be a great option. However, for some of you, it might be all the above, right? Where maybe that number is at least 15,000 when you try the calculator. By the way, when you fill out the calculator, make sure you fill out all 10 questions because otherwise it's not going to give you an accurate number. Put it in correctly. You can't imagine how many times people put in some, weird things that just don't add up. So make sure you just put it in. It takes a couple minutes at most. In fact, some of you might even be doing it right now. And you might almost be finished at this point. So, but yeah, go ahead and try that passive income calculator right now. See what that number is. If it's over 15,000, you should definitely be talking to our team, our consultants, to see, just to verify if that's actually what we can do. Because if it is, I'm telling you, we should be talking some more and see if maybe we can help you on the consulting side. Just so you know, on our consulting side, we never take you on as a client unless we know for a fact we can make you more in the next year than what you pay us. Otherwise, we won't take you on. Nothing drives me nuts more when someone tries to get into a program or whatever, and they sell you on some program, and then you have to wait like 5-10 years before you finally get your money back. Actually, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like financial advising, doesn't it? Because you say you pay $15,000 into an investment, for example, $15,000 in an investment. You hope and pray. You think your financial advisor is awesome if you make 10%. That's $1,500 a year. Where again, our average client usually makes about $40,000 a year off the investments that they do. And that's just in the first year. After they reinvest, it just keeps climbing from that point onward. So when you really think about it, actually, it takes you like 10 years to make your money back with a financial advisor. We want to make sure you do it within a year. So that's why we have you do the calculator to actually really see if you really qualify working with us. If not, that's fine. We want to support you any way we can. And we really do want to help you. We want to make sure that you can actually create that passive income. I do not want you to end up like my dad, right? I don't want you to be there. I love this quote right there. It says, the most dangerous risk of all is the risk of spending your life not doing what you want on the bet you can buy yourself the freedom to do it later. I love this. I took this actually from my phone because it was unbelievable. You can see here, you got the way it's 1 minute to get to I was actually, ironically enough, driving to my bank. 1 minute to get there, but then it gave me an alternate route. You see that right there? Alternate route says it's going to take about 25,000 days longer than that 1 minute route. That's your financial advising aspect, right? Many people will go like my dad did. He had to go to his 70s, guys. He went into his 70s before he finally retired. And even at that point, he still had that same worry that everybody had. Even all the clients I had that were in retirement were, what if I run out of money? I don't want to spend too much. And so they have to live on less, right? You don't want to do that. You don't want to get to the point where you're alive, but you really can't live. You know what I mean when I say that? You're alive, but you can't really live. You can't really live your life. What if you could live your life now? Not tomorrow, but today, but actually getting your money to work harder for you. Get the money to do the hard work, not you. You don't have to slave away forever. You don't have to keep serving a horrible master, right? You don't have to keep doing that just because you're buying into the traditional crap of investing in mutual funds and retirement accounts. That does not have to be your life. It could be different. What we just talked about today, is that answer. It's something that not only have I done, many of our clients have done as well. And I also trust that you can do it too. So, all right, I'm going to stop it right now. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Go ahead. If you haven't asked questions already, I'm going to start looking at questions. Start typing your questions now if you've got them for me. And we're going to start taking a look at that. So let me just dig right in. All right, Katerina. Hello, Katerina. Formerly New York, now South Carolina. Says, what are the tax implications of the 387% return? Oh, I'm so glad you asked that because it's so much better than what the mutual fund would be. If you put it in the stock market, you have to pay tax on it, $55,000. I didn't say that. The tax implications are virtually no tax, Katerina. That's what's pretty awesome. Now, it doesn't mean that in every situation it's always different, but in that situation for me, the money that I'm getting, I'm actually the rent that I'm getting, I'm writing off. It's really awesome because you're able to depreciate that property. So the depreciation of the property, because the property structure loses value, just like a car does, right? So the property loses value, which means I get a tax write-off. Well, that tax write-off offsets the income that I get coming in, which means I get to keep more of my money. For the rest of it, like the equity that's in the property, which has definitely built up over the last several years. By the way, somebody will always challenge me on that. About 100,000 of that was from the equity. The rest of it was actually from the rent, the cash flow. And that equity, you can actually do a tax-free rollover. It's called a 1031 exchange. You can roll over that money tax-free into a new property and pay zero tax. In fact, the cool thing is you can keep rolling that money over and over and over again for years and years and pay no tax on all those gains and just keep moving it to the next property, to the next property. Sometimes it makes sense to cash it out, but where you may not have to pay a lot of tax, but there's might be some different ways around it. So great questions, because you think about that. That's big, because your IRAs, your 401ks, guess what? You're going to pay tax, and you will pay the highest tax bracket because it's ordinary income tax. Employees pay the highest tax. Business owners and investors pay the lowest tax. You want to be in those categories to be able to save for you that way. So definitely a big, big thing there. I didn't notice there, if you didn't see it already, I'm going to put it right here. The link to that calculator that's online. Obviously, you just go to moneyripples.com, but you can just also click on that bit.ly link right there on the comments, and you can do that as well. So, all right, let's see here. Other questions we got. All right, we got Danielle asking, ask your questions now. All right, AJ. AJ just said, thank you, Chris. I'll be looking at into the infinite insurance more closely now. Awesome. AJ, if there's anything we do to help you out there, I'll tell you there's only two things that we do best. Because if we don't do it the best, we don't offer it through our company. Otherwise, we farm it out to somebody else, or we connect you with other people that do it. One of the things that we do best, one is, of course, is we help our clients actually one-on-one, help guide them along to know, one, how do they find the cash to be able to invest, and what kind of cash do you use? And then two, where can you invest it? And we even have vetted over 20 different vetted investment operators that you can go to. Doesn't mean you have to use them. And we're not investment advisors, so we don't say these are people you use, but we try to help you narrow down the options a little bit more so that you know what might be the best strategy for you. You know, like, hey, if you got an IRA, what are some of the better investments to do IRA money with? If you have cash on sidelines, or maybe you have your infinite banking policy, right, with the life insurance, where is it good to use that for? We got not only just the good strategies or places you can put it, but we even have good contacts of people that really we've vetted over the years, that many of them have been around for at least minimum 10, 15, 20 years. They've been around a long time, so that they're not just newbies, right? They're not people that are just inexperienced greenies, so to speak, right? They actually have experience and they know how to deal with it. Even if the market shifts and changes, no problem. So AJ, yeah, definitely infinite banking. That's the other thing we do really, really well too. There's nobody that does it better if you want to have the best return on your investment, on your money that goes in those infinite banking policies. Everybody else, I'm telling you, and this is not like Donald Trump, everybody else type thing, like, oh, we do the best. You know, I'm not doing that at all. I'm telling you, like, he actually, we actually do the best when it comes to infinite banking. We've yet to find somebody who does better. We've seen only very rare situations where they might match our numbers, but never beat them. So great question. And yes, AJ, should you go fill out the calculator first for guidance? Definitely, if you're looking for passive income options, yes, go ahead and try that calculator out. It's great. Definitely recommend that, you know, just to see what that number is for you. Okay, Ronnie asked, he said, let's see. Oh, you already put it up there. Great. Says, I'm looking at mid-career pause after selling off a business. I'll potentially have access to it at the minimum $2.5 million. Ronnie, that's awesome. By the way, good to see you, Ronnie. I want to travel the world with my family for a year. How fast could these cash flowing strategies move to be able to do this? Great question. Because that's one thing we explain people if they, you know, have over 15,000 on the results. We'll talk about that a little bit. Some investments pay out sooner than others. So that's a big part of that timeline. For example, the oil stuff, right? You might be waiting 6, 7, 8 months before you get your first paycheck. And even then it might trickle in until after month 12, you get paid more. Some of these other investments pay month to month. They might pay like the very next month after you put your money in. Others pay quarterly. And so really the variable for the most part, although there are some variations in these, the big variable is usually you. How fast do you invest? And we definitely encourage you not to just jump in super fast and make rash decisions. I never encourage that at all, to just gamble, you know, and not know what you're doing. But again, that's where we try to guide you along. So Ronnie, definitely would love to be able to guide you a little bit there and give you some options. But yeah, if you have access to $2.5 million, you definitely got some options. You got a lot of options. But you know, heck, even if you didn't, you know, even if you didn't invest all of it, let's just say you invested $1 million and it made 10%, that's still $100,000 a year. May or may not give you enough to be able to travel, but that's something you can work out with your coach as you're working with them one-on-one. Mark said, hey, Chris, do you know Rob and Nicole that lives in Orem, Utah? Mark, the answer is, I know lots of Robs and Nicoles, but yes, I know that Rob and Nicole you're talking about as well. Great people. So definitely great people for sure. So, all right, other questions from those of you guys on here right now? I'm going to give it just a few seconds because I know there's a big delay when I see your message versus when you type the question. So, so definitely feel free to do that. All right. So I'm going to put this up one more time, the little bit.ly link we got there for the calculator, or just go to moneyripples.com. You can find it there. But definitely the bit.ly link is great because then we can actually be able to help you out, you know, just get you there right directly rather than having to navigate around to get there. But definitely go ahead and fill out the calculator. I think that's a big thing for sure. Jeff asked like if I still recommend certain people. Yeah, at different times. So that's something we can definitely talk about off topic here, because I want to actually end this before the top of the hour, which I don't usually do, but I want to make sure I was short and sweet to the point in some ways, but still give you a lot of value. But yes, definitely there's a lot of different companies that we recommend and connect with. But I'll tell you, it just depends on the situation, because sometimes some investments can be better than others. And many times when we start working with people, they want to just jump the gun. They're so excited to get going, which we love, because we love people who are very coachable. They're honest. They're good people. But you just, sometimes the strategy doesn't match the goal. And that's the key thing, is that we want to make sure that the strategy matches the goal. And when those match up, and especially if you can save yourself hours and hours of pain trying to find out how to do this yourself when there's already a vetted amount of investments there, it makes it so much easier for you. And here's the ultimate thing, guys. Here's why we want you to do this, is because I talk about money ripples, right? That ripple effect to create in your life. Man, it is so important that you become financially prosperous, right? Because the more you become financially prosperous, and it's not like you have to wait till you're rich to make a difference in the world. You can serve people and make a difference in people's lives along the way. But for me, the biggest thing is I'm trying to create a ripple effect through you, because as you're freed up financially, you start to look at life differently, don't you? When you know that you don't have to keep going to work every single day, you're work optional. You work because you want to, not because you have to. When you show up and you know that now it's not about trying to survive and pay your bills, that's taken care of, you start to look out beyond you. You start to look at other people and how you can bless others' lives. That is a ripple effect I want to last, not just beyond me, but even beyond my own lifespan. I want to make sure that there's a ripple effect going into your family's future too, your kids, and that they can do bigger and greater things than even you're able to do. But it starts with you. You are that pioneer. You are that hero. It could be the hero of your story if you choose to accept it, if you're willing to act on it. Otherwise, you become the victim like everybody else. You realize when it's too late that it just wasn't enough. That doesn't have to happen. There's a perfect opportunity right now. And by the way, guys, the great thing is that it's not just about me. It's not just about your coach that you work with. It's also about the community, to answer your question, Jeff. It's about the community, because we even get our clients to talk to each other online as well and work together and do things and ask each other advice. So you have this community. So you're not alone in this journey, right? There are other people just like you doing this very same thing. And if you're somebody who actually wants to make a difference in people's lives, and you want to be able to have freedom, this is it. So everybody, appreciate you being on today. Thank you so much. Again, go ahead and take that calculator online now. Find out what we can actually do for you. Like how much passive income you create in just the next year. Try that out now. Make it a great day, everybody.